All right. Hello again, everybody. Welcome back. This is kind of a last minute, or I don't know. I mean, they're all kind of the same, but I was inspired to do this one kind of out of the blue. Partly because I lost a friend yesterday, named Peter, and I was asked to write a little piece about him for a local paper. And it's just got me thinking about death and a few other things. So I'm going to call this one Death. Now, I'm actually going to call it Death Part 1. Because I have no doubt that I will come back to this again. Um, death, despite our strange relationship with death, in the Western world at least, where we tend to hide from it and try to avoid it at all costs, and yeah, don't really even acknowledge it. Um, I think lots about it, and it does drive some people crazy, I think, including maybe my daughters, but I think it's really important, and I have learned a few things about it. So I'm going to start with that. Last week on Sunday, I wrote a little piece. I often try to write something on Sunday mornings and share it either to my webpage, which is goodnoise.ca, if you ever want to go check that out, or to my Facebook page, which is also Good Noise. And a couple of things. These are just paraphrased from a couple different teachings that I've listened to. First one, without a reminder of death, we tend to take life for granted and we become lost in the endless pursuits of self gratification. But when we keep death close at hand, it reminds us not to hold on to things so tightly. We don't take ourselves so seriously, we let go a little more easily. When we reflect on death, we understand we are all in the boat together, and this helps us to be kinder and gentler to one another. And we realize we don't want to waste a moment. We want to tell people that we love them. The second one is a little bit different, but again, of course, about death. What if we reminded ourselves in our encounters, this person could die tonight? Think about the number of times that you talk to somebody, and that may actually be true. I can't think of instances where it's happened to me, but certainly I don't think about this being the last time that I'm going to talk to somebody, or could be the last time that I talk to somebody when I'm talking to them, although I'm trying to remember this. When we acknowledge death, the veil of denial lifts and we see the truth of the fragility of life, and awareness of impermanence can help us cherish the people we encounter every day. Instead of talking to someone, we bring more presence to each encounter. And how comforting it would be if we said goodbye with care. When we realize that we too could die tonight, we become more present, more alive in each moment of our life. And that's really where why I think it's important to think about death. I believe the Latin phrase is memento mori. I hope I haven't messed that up and confused it with another one. Um, right. And again, it's one of those paradoxical things. Remember, I talked about before. And by the way, I'm probably going to repeat things many times because I'm going to start forgetting what I've already talked about. But I think death and life are another one of that. It fits into that paradoxical thinking. I'm not sure you can live a full life if you're not willing to at least consider your death. And of course, the same is true. We don't really practice for death um, in our lives, but maybe we should. In some ways, I've read that that's really what meditation is. Mindfulness meditation is, in some ways, just kind of preparing for death. And it makes sense that, we don't know. This might be a little blip in our existence. Maybe death or something after. We should at least take some time to think about it. Anyway, what brought me to it today, of course, was, like I said, the death of my friend Peter. But I have had quite a bit of death or thoughts of death this past week. Started. Those of you who follow me know that we had a fundraiser last week for a good friend who has cancer and is going through treatment right now. I also learned that a close family member has cancer, and again, there's no threat that death is going to happen immediately, but it at least reminds you, right, of the fragility of life, like that said. A couple always famous people dying. Rex Murphy died, if you know who Rex Murphy is. Guy named Steve Albini, I think that's how you pronounce it, a music producer, died. Didn't know anything about him, but read a heck of a lot after he died, and again, sounded like a pretty interesting guy. So all of these deaths, of course, have brought me back to just thinking about it and thinking about um, how important it is that we acknowledge it, and at the same time, also when people do pass, that we acknowledge their importance. And that's, I guess, where I'll talk a little bit about Peter. So Peter, full name was Peter Chokin. His family had been in Owen Sound for many years. Again, I don't know a lot of the family history. I can just kind of talk about him from my point of view. They ran a photo store called Photo Art in town, and I probably wouldn't be doing this, right, without Peter, because Peter got me on the path of photography and supported me on that path of photography. And I'm not sure any of this other stuff that has come after would even exist if it wasn't for that. It's been such an important thing in my life. And, Peter was the type of guy who, well, a couple things that I remember. One day I walked in there and he asked me, I don't know if I had taken photos and he saw them. And he said, do you own a flash? And I'm like, no, I don't. And he said, well, here, take this. And he gave me one. And he said, you can pay it off as you have, as you can, but you need to learn how to use a flash. Now, I never really did learn how to use a flash, and I'm not a big fan of flash photography either. It has its purpose. Um, but just him doing that and thinking about how he could help me become a better photographer was very important to me. He would, whenever I would do shows and try to sell prints, he would. There was one, I'm sure, if I'm remembering it correctly. That's another thing this will be about. It, the whole idea of memory and how it changes. Memory is a memory of a memory. Um, that I was doing a show, I think in the art crawl very near his store. And I went in and he had printed out like 40 or 80, can't remember how many prints for me to sell. And again, he handed them to me, said, here, these are the photos I think will sell, and I took them out. And yes, I sold some, certainly didn't sell them all. I think I still have quite a bit of them, quite a few of them. But he, just again, the fact that he was thinking about that. I had a chance to work for him, although to be honest, I don't think many people saw Peter in the last few years of his life. He didn't come into the store at all when I was working there. I volunteered, or not, didn't volunteer. He paid me, but I, went in on Saturdays because he was having difficulty getting staff. And yeah, I think he had a profound impact on not just photographers in the community, but the community as well. I know there are lots of photographers who were quite sad to hear the news, because he was very supportive of all of us. And also, very blunt. We had some pretty interesting conversations about education, about photography. We would talk about cameras, and I remember him once saying to me, "You don't need the best gear, right? I sell a lot of the best gear, but it's often photographers who aren't the best that are buying it." And he got that idea in my mind that it doesn't really matter what tool I use. Um, yeah, he was very supportive in his own way, and loved to talk about things. Loved to talk about life as well. And so, I just want to again acknowledge that I hope and I hope too that he will be remembered as um, someone who kept the visual history of our area alive. It's interesting. He just passed on boxes of photos that were never picked up from his store. His store's closed I guess about a year ago now, maybe a little bit less, and has given them to another gentleman who is sharing them. And, it's quite fascinating to see these photos. But the fact that he held on to them, says a lot about Peter. He had an amazing camera collection that I think has now gone to somebody else. Very interested in all that history, and really kept it alive. And like I said, kept the photo history of Owen Sound alive as well, which is really important. I mean, I'm starting to see my own role in that a little bit, that I've taken photos. Um, it I'm not sure what just happened there. Well, my phone is dinging and I'm getting fireworks. Anyway, hopefully that was good timing. And yes, and so he's kept that alive, and it's much appreciated. And I hope he had a sense of how it's a very hard thing to do, but that he had an impact on a lot of people. So I just pulled up one other thing that is important for me as well, because sometimes I forget that people we forget the impact that we have, or we're maybe never aware of it. And it says, you have more of an impact than you know. Someone is listening to their new favorite song because you shared it with them. Someone's day is better because they got to see you. Someone has kept going thanks to your words of encouragement. Someone still lives by the advice you gave them years ago. Someone feels inspired to take a risk after seeing you be bold and brave. Don't underestimate the impact your words, actions, and energy have on people. A small act can impact others in bigger ways than you'll ever know. So thanks, Peter. I really appreciate what you did for me and how you set me, or helped me at least, get on this path that I'm on now. And yeah, you'll be in my thoughts. This will probably be my last video for a week or so at least. We have some plans this week, so there may not be anything else. I think I now have 49 followers, so thank you. to you. If you're one of those 49 people, it's much appreciated. If you'd like to share it, share any of these videos, that's great. Again, I'm not getting too hung up on numbers and stuff like that. I hope that doesn't start to impact what I'm doing here, but I do think that sharing is important, and I appreciate uh, all the comments and thoughts that people are sharing with me. So thanks.